Hey everyone, welcome to one of my labs. This one's going to be on Windows Server 2008 Release 2 Network Load Balancing. The idea here is that we've set up our virtualized infrastructure and it looks, let's pretend it looks something like this. So we're all nice and tidy with our folders. And we've got a 2-host cluster here. The idea is that we want to deploy a highly available IS7 website, and we're going to do that with network load balancing. We're going to set up, well actually I've already set up 2 Windows Server 2008 machines, and if I pop down into here you can see there's machine 1 and there's machine 2. In terms of networking setup, they both have just one network card. There's no clustered interfaces here. There's normally with traditional Windows clustering you have a third NIC running in between them, but here we don't. We just have one. This network here is completely isolated. I only have 3 machines on it, which is 1, 2, and then on my local machine I'm running VMware Workstation 7, and that has an adapter is essentially representing this machine here. So this machine here is being virtualized by VMware Workstation. That's being done because all of these devices are on VLAN 500. My local machine has got, I'll just show you this quickly. If I pop into my local machine and have a look at network settings, you'll see that here I have an interface that's site-to-site LAN. And on this port here, which I've called Intel Trunk, you'll see I then there have a VLAN name that's ID 500. If I have a look under Network Editor, you'll see that VMnet3 is bound to, just waiting for that to change, the site-to-site VLAN, and then this here is bound to VMnet3, which essentially means I have that IP address, and if I jump into the console of one of the machines here, means I can ping 192.168.100. That's node 1 and that's node 2. So even though I'm running in here in VMware Workstation, it essentially, through virtualizing in VMware Workstation and virtualizing within vSphere here, I've essentially set up this network. Okay, let's set up a ping. This is going to be pinging my the clustered IP of the 2 nodes, this IP here, that's going to be shared amongst the 2. Obviously it's not returning anything because it hasn't been set up yet, so let's go ahead and do it. So that's the, we don't need this anymore yet, I don't think. This is node 1. Let me bring up a console on node 2. That's node 2. Let's jump into Server Manager on each node. First thing we're going to do is we need to add a feature. The feature that we're adding is called Network Load Balancing. Add a feature, network load balancing. See, the other node's already done now. close that. Okay, now if we have a look under Control Panel and Administrative Tools, second node is done. Let's close that down. We should see one here called Network Load Balancing Manager. Balancing Manager even. First thing you want to do, we want to do a new cluster, and you specify the host name of the first node, which in my example is going to be this. That's what we want to do. Here you've got the priority of the host. It's automatically set to 1 because this is a new cluster, so is the first node. Next. Now here's the cluster IP address. So this is where we specify 192.168.100.100. Auto fills the subnet mask. I'm intentionally leaving this blank. The reason for that is I don't have any DNS services available, but if you did, you'd put the fully qualified domain name in there. Unicast and multicast is important, and I'll tell you about that later. Essentially, multicast is easier to set up in a virtualized environment, but some switches and routers have problems with it. Unicast is completely invisible to your other infrastructure equipment, so is easier to deploy for nodes that are fussy about talking to multicast MAC addresses. Anyway, 192.168.100.100. So we're now waiting for it to set up that particular IP address. And you see in the bottom right hand corner, what it does is it essentially binds NLB to that network card and then almost disables and re-enables the card. There we go, that's a good sign. That's the cluster IP now responding. Okay, next stage. What we'll do is if we select the cluster and then go host, cluster and add a host, that's the one. And what we'll do, we'll add NLB2. Now what's important here is for this to actually work, one of the things that you need is your credentials that you're using on this machine need to work on this machine as well, which either means domain, each computer is a member of a domain, you've got administrative credentials throughout the domain, or like we set up here, the